Good evening and welcome. Crime in our local area is a problem that needs to be addressed. Did you know that in 2015, Jacksonville and Jacksonville Beach had 1,515 violent crimes occurred, as well as 8,823 non-violent crimes occurred, according to ValuePenguin.com. With these staggering numbers in mind, it is clear that not enough is currently being done to lower the crime rate. Crime rate affects the community in multiple different ways. When there is high crime rate in an area, it imposes economic costs to citizens living in that community. For instance, according to victimsofcrime.org, businesses tend to leave high crime areas, which further erodes a community's sense of cohesiveness. But when businesses stay, one recent study found that a 10% decrease in domestic property crime adds roughly 1.7% to the selling price of local homes in that area, also according to victimsofcrime.org. Another strong way that crime affects the community is the way that it undermines the social fabric of that community. When living in a high crime area, victimsofcrime.org says it is associated with elevated rates of fear of strangers and the general alienation from participation in community life. This obviously detracts from a community as a whole and only fosters the culture of keeping to oneself, instead of working together as a team or as a community to overcome these problems. Another study found by victimsofcrime.org that individuals who have been the victims of crime within 1 mile of their current home address were more likely to move away from that neighborhood after the victimization, only further opposing a sense of community and only epitomizing the culture of keeping to oneself. Over the next couple minutes, I want all of you to keep an open mind and to understand that currently crime is a problem and that it needs to be addressed. To reiterate, the current crime rate is a problem that negatively affects our community and it needs to be fixed. Just recently, the Florida Times-Union reported that a 14-year-old boy who was in the safety of his own home, working on homework, was shot during a home invasion. An innocent kid, he was in the middle of his daily routine after school, was shot in cold blood. This story illustrates to us currently that we have a major problem. And I'm willing to go out on a limb and say that all of us have had to deal with crime in our own lives and in our own ways. Sadly, murder in Jacksonville is a very common thing. News4Jax.com reported that 10% of all Florida murders happened in the city of Jacksonville in 2013. This alarming statistic further points to the problems that we are facing. Death is not the only outcome of crime. The fear of crime also affects personal spending. LawJRank.org stated that losses to the victims and non-victims can also come in the form of increased security spending, including stronger locks, parking in more expensive and secure lots, and includes upkeep of having a guard dog. Considerable money is spent to avoid being victimized. Other types of expenses can include a victim or a person moving to a new neighborhood, funeral expenses, legal fees, and the loss of school days. All of these are possible precautionary end results of crime and fear from it. Personal finances are not the only cash flow that can be affected by the crime rate. Communities are also affected through the loss of tourism and the increase of retail sales. Even the so-called victimless crimes of prostitution, drug abuse, and gambling have major social consequences. Drug abuse affects worker productivity, uses public funds for treatment plans and medical expenses, and leads to criminal activity to support the expenses of the drug habit, as per lawjrank.org. This all points to the problem that we face when we fail to deal with the crime at hand. In order to tackle these problems, we must look at what we are not currently doing and form a solution, both on a community level as well as a personal level. As a collective community, there's a lot that we can do in order to lower the current crime rate. TheGuardian.com suggests that we create well-targeted programs focused on prevention, avoid repressive policies, and focus on gun control. Following through with these plans would most certainly see the crime rate dwindle. Victimsofcrime.org states that communities' activism may provide some of the most effective road tools to address the current crime in communities. To find a missing child, to redress an injustice endured by a victim, and mobilizing communities to prevent future crimes. Not only can we make improvements as a community, but also on an individual level, we can step up and make a difference. Volunteering at outreach programs, being a good role model, and participating in youth programs as a mentor. These are just a few ways and ideas given by TheGuardian.com that we can make a difference. Similarly to community actions, individual actions also go a very long way in preventing crimes from occurring. Just imagine the world that we can live in, where the positive changes being made by our community improves our community's lifestyle as well as our economy. We could keep kids from falling into the wrong crowds and keep them more focused on schoolwork and other activities that help further better themselves. With that in mind, we must remind ourselves that crime is very common in our local area. No matter what the crime may be, there are always going to be those who are affected by it, whether it be on a personal level or a community level. However, there are things that we can do to lower the current crime rate and prevent crime from happening. We are all called to help and keep our communities safe and doing what we can. Wouldn't we rather be filling classrooms than be filling prison cells?